o'clock. I'll go ahead and call to order the October 15th, 2024 Pendleton Board of Zoning Appeals. Let's do a roll call, starting to my left.
Robert Jones.
Jenny Sisson.
Kyle Eichhorn.
Probably.
Anyone online?
Yep, Jeff's online and then petitioner Michael Oliver's online.
Okay, all right, we have a quorum, 4 or 5 members present. I'll move to accept the motion of approval of the previous meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Second, we have a motion and second.
I'll second that.
Let's do a roll call to approve.
Aye.
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 I'll abstain. I don't believe I was here for them.
Well, actually, I wasn't here either, so should I abstain? Jeff?
I believe.
If
Jeff,
you weren't
this
here,
is
but
Still comfortable. What's he starting to say?
Kyle, if you've reviewed the record, you can you can vote to approve. If not, I recommend abstention.
Okay, I read through the minutes, so it's fine. All right, meeting minutes are approved. Move on to old business. We have a findings of fact for 450 Old State Road 132.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you. Kind of a quick recap, refresher. I know it's been a couple of months since we've been all together here. But we do have one findings of facts to be presented this evening. It was an exterior material variance that was sought by petitioner Henry Farrar. He lives out there on 450 Old State Road 132, and he was seeking, we had a hearing back in May where he was approved a height variance, and then he came back looking at the cost for the metal seam panels being a concealed fastener, tripled that cost of that product for him. So being a kind of a specialty order. And so he wanted to seek variance from that standard. There was a lot of great discussion that evening, and after review and discussion of his petition, there was a unanimous vote that evening, voting in favor and support of those 5 criteria being met. The first criteria, that it was not injurious to public health and safety, it was determined that it was a utilitarian purpose, use and personal use for that structure. It was going to be non-commercial, and that all other standards and building codes were going to be met. The use and value of adjacent properties was deemed not to be negatively impacted. The intended use was found to be consistent with a comprehensive plan. It was more considered a rural setting, being surrounded by agricultural property on all 3 sides, as well as previously in prior zoning maps, that particular property was zoned rural residential, in which that material is allowed in that zoning district. The product, or the garage, it was going to set back 125 feet off the road. The fastener is going to be tipped with the same color as the exterior materials, and that there's similar product materials nearby as well. The strict application of the terms of the ordinance was deemed not to result in a practical, or was deemed that it would result in a practical difficulty for the petitioner, as again, those financial burdens of that higher priced product would not make it practical or feasible for the petitioner. And just considering all the facts, the board felt that requiring that higher standard of the concealed fastener was just not necessary. And that it was not applied to correct a hardship. He did not purchase that product. He awaited the outcome from your board before he moved forward with that. There was no objection to the petition, and it was approved with no conditions. So, kind of the findings of facts in a nutshell.
There's a pen up here. I guess we can do it. You want to do it now or after the meeting?
Yeah, you could sign after the meeting.
We'll just do it after.
Yep, okay,
Okay.
perfect.
Any questions for staff?
Oh, good.
All right, I guess we'll move on to new business, V1015-2024-01. Variance from development standards at 141 East Madison Avenue.
So we have two variances to be presented this evening. The first one is pertaining to property at 141 East Madison Avenue. The petitioner is here available online. It's Michael Oliver. It's Michael and Krista Oliver, but Michael is actually zooming in from Alaska. Michael, if I believe you're connected well and can hear us, but I could speak a little bit louder if need be. But Mr. Oliver has complied with all of the filing requirements. There's not been any objections or response from the public regarding this petition. But some of the main facts here before us tonight, this property is zoned residential core conservancy. It's the RC district. It's kind of the residential areas and the outlining downtown area. The property is 0.19 acres, which is a little bit under 8,300 square feet. It's a kind of a historic two-story salt box home that's used for residential dwelling. It's nestled in between Spring Street, kind of the rear, but it's kind of a double frontage lot, as well as on the front, East Madison Avenue, and then Broadway Street to the east. This property has two access points. It has from the front. There's no garage in the front, but there is a driveway off of East Madison Avenue. And then there is also one off of Spring Street that is access to a attached 3-car garage and a detached 8x10 shed there. The current impervious surface we wanted to point out this evening is it's 2,060. So the maximum impervious surface for RC zoning is 50%. So you're looking at about 4,100 max. And so he is just a quarter of the total square footage for his property that is covered there. Wanted to also point out that both driveways are kind of pea gravel. It's not concrete or asphalt. So we cannot count that and will not count that towards his coverage there. Then with what he's being proposed and what was filed by the petitioner, even with the addition, you're still looking at about a 2,600 square foot total coverage on impervious surface there. Petitioner is requesting a variance from developmental standards as follows. Petitioner desires to replace the existing 8x10 accessory structure that is right off of Spring Street with a 24 by 24 by 25 feet high accessory dwelling unit. That use is allowed by right, but we have a setback issue that needed to be addressed. That structure sits already at 5 feet off of the property line, which is about 11 feet off the the edge of pavement there. The side yard setback is 5 feet. That is where his structure sits, and that is where he proposes. So the only variance that he would need would be off of what we call a double frontage setback variance. The way that RC is structured, it's a little bit unique. It's not a definite feet setback based on your road classification. So say a typical local road classification on a front setback is 25 feet. However, with RC, it's a little bit different, and it goes with the average block. So with this particular block, you'll see here that there are, and that was probably in the previous slide, there's about 9 particular properties there running between East Madison Avenue there to the west and Broadway Street. So what we have to do is we have to analyze the setback of all the structures within that stretch. And then we take that average, and that becomes then the standard for any development thereafter. You'll see about 3 or 4 of those properties have structures, even attached structures, primary structures that are even under 5 feet from the public right of way. But again, where he would seek this variance, he is seeking for a 5-foot setback off that public right of way. Also, wanted to lay out in the next slide there, Stephanie, where the proposed ADU would sit there in the rear of his property, you'll see it allows about 30 feet distance between his primary structure and that ADU. That is a space that he would like to preserve for both privacy and enjoyment for and from the primary structure as well. And then it outlines there the 5 feet side and then double frontage that front set back there off of Spring Street. To the right is the proposed architectural, the actual structure that he is looking at purchasing if this variance is approved. He has communicated with Berline Construction for the construction of this model here. And we'll kind of go into some of the details here, but if you want, I can pause if you have questions for myself or Mr. Oliver, or if you'd like, I can kind of give a little bit more detail and go right into staff analysis. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm fine with.
Going forward?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the function of the planning staff is to analyze the petition against approved and relevant plans and ordinances, as well as existing conditions and or variances passed upon the site to present facts and analysis. So based upon our analysis, the staff would like to offer the following comments. So we did not find that the variance would pose an endangerment to public health and safety or general welfare. The accessory dwelling unit will meet all ADU standards. So there's quite a bit in the Unified Development Ordinance that includes it has to remain under the same ownership. It has to be connected to public utilities, same as a primary structure. The square footage, there is a maximum there. So for the square footage maximum, it's 50% of the primary structure or maximum of 800 feet. So with his, I think it's like 1860 square feet for his primary structure, half of that, he would be allowed that maximum 800, but he's seeking 576 for the 80 year. So he would be well within those constraints, as well as the height is 25 feet, which is the height maximum for ADUs. It will abide and follow dwelling building codes, a permanent foundation, as well as a separate unit number. And parking access. There is already existing parking from the rear, so that is already in place. The proposed ADU will complement the architectural style, character, and colors, materials of his primary structure. He's looking at keeping with the same paint and trim as his primary home. And he's also proposing with that, again, he's looking at about 2,600 square feet impervious surface, with the maximum a little bit over 4,100. So he is well under that 50% max. Setback variance is the same as what the existing structure is today, and it's similar to those around. Also, bulk use and all other property setbacks are met. And Spring Street being a local street, it kind of functions more like an alley or a back street. It's very low traffic that we found, and that petitioner is wanting to maximize the benefits of his property, preserving that privacy and outdoor space for his primary unit. And petitioner is not seeking to be able to correct a hardship. He has not purchased this product or moved forward with it. It's just conceptual at this time. And all other building codes and developmental standards will be expected to be met if the variance is approved. I want to also note too, the ADU will have a fully enclosed bathroom, bedroom, open living and kitchen. It's in your Google Drive, a little bit of layout that he provided, but it is full kitchen. It also has a 6x8 covered porch up the front, and then it has an open loft on the second story up above. That's about it.
So what, I guess the existing shed that's there, you're saying that it's gonna have the same setback as that shed?
That is correct. It's about 5 feet off the public right away on the north edge, the north wall there. You'll see, it's a little bit off in the picture though, but that looks like it's kind of,
It looks like it's about
yeah,
5 foot off.
it looks up south of that, right in the middle of that property, but looking at our GIS, see it's.
Yeah, I'm on Beacon looking at the.
Okay.
So he's
So
gonna
the
match,
property line is here, the public,
yeah, so he's gonna
right.
match the north edge of that existing.
yes, that is correct.
Do you know if a boundary survey has been done?
I don't believe it has. Mr. Oliver, Mike, has a boundary survey been conducted, or will you be looking into that before?
It has not been done. However, there is, hard, rebar stakes. Was done just a couple years ago on the fence that's currently there down that one side. So they haven't been moved.
I just, yeah, that's fine. I was just wanting, if you're gonna have 5 foot setback on a old plat like that, if you've got some boundary monuments you can measure off of, that sounds like that.
Yes, yes, I have checked it against what is there, and it was somewhat recent in the
So
last
you
couple
you
years.
have a copy of that survey?
I do not. I think that was done by Josh, that previous owner to the property next door to me.
Okay. And then, so the UDO says that the setbacks are supposed to be the average block setback,
That is correct.
and that's been calculated to be about
At 15
15.
feet, yes, yes.
Cause it looks like, just looking at the GIS, there's a house a couple doors west that appears to.
Yeah, it's
pretty
about
short
3
setback.
feet, yes, it is.
So
and-
going to 5 feet on this one doesn't
Yeah.
seem like it's really that big of a.
And these
problem.
are those non-conforming parcels
Yeah,
in the old parts of town.
Do you calculate that average on both frontages or just on Spring Street?
I did on Spring Street on both north and south side. Not on.
Oh, so on
not
the north side of
East
Spring
Madison.
also.
Yes, yeah. Mhm.
just looking at our side of the street, it looks like there's one that's maybe more than 5, one that's less than 5, so
Mhm.
really.
Yeah, it was more
seems
the
like it-
north properties
Yeah.
that increased that setback
Mhm.
average.
So just kind of thinking about the sight line down the south side of
Yeah.
Spring Street, I think really 5 foot probably is,
It's within.
yeah, it's within
alignment,
plus
yeah,
or
that-
minus. of the top,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, these non-conforming parcels that are, we've taken a triangle and parsed it out.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess we should review the 5
Sorry,
criteria.
Oh,
Right.
I
Petitioner, does the petitioner have any presentation to make or anything?
Mr. Oliver, do you have anything to add or?
Yeah, that's a good question.
No, Miss Denise has made my job very easy. Thank you.
Great to work with. I do believe
Good
that.
job.
Well, thank you. I believe Hannah Rose is on. She's got a comment or question.
Yeah, I just wanted you guys to keep in mind, I'm sure you're aware of it, but these GIS maps are not survey accurate, so where the aerial photo shows up with the parcel line can be off a couple feet either direction. In this case, looks like they're pushed a little to the west, but that's pretty common again in these both GIS and in these weird old platted areas where we have some pretty wonky parcels.
Well, so the fences, I would assume, depending on where the pins are, they'll be able to measure that when they
Yeah.
stake the structure. And as far as the right of way line of Spring Street, even if we didn't know where it was, you can tell the placement of those buildings were kind of
Yes.
bridging that, so.
And it's not like there's not room when they get out there to move it a half foot, a foot closer to the house. There's plenty of space there.
Yeah.
Anybody else online that wants to speak?
Scott's online.
And letters were sent to the neighbors and there was
Yes.
no,
Nope, no,
Comments
no
received.
comments, no feedback received at all.
Okay.
Positive, negative, neutral, correct.
I guess we can review the 5 criteria for the findings of fact. The first one is that the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. As we discussed, that the 5 foot that's requested on the Spring Street side is kind of an average of those through there.
And it's technically replacing a current structure, even though this is a little bigger,
Yeah.
but it's still on the same setback that's currently there.
So yeah, it's not gonna, create further
No,
obstructions to the road or anything, so I think we can agree that it meets the first criteria. Any board comment on that?
I agree.
The second one is the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, and the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. So looking at these other properties that have, structures near the road, this proposal is replacing an existing structure with a larger, newer structure, and so that would not appear to cause a deep.
No, it's not gonna
decrease
be
in value, so.
intrusive.
Any other?
It will enhance the property and the area around it too. It will match my home in decor wise and color.
Yeah, it's the home, the 2-story that's
Yes.
kind of looks historic.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
the salt box home.
Yep.
Mhm, love it.
Any other board discussion on the second item? I think we are in agreement that it'll enhance the area.
Mhm.
The strict applications of the terms of the ordinance will result in practical difficulties in use of the property. I think this kind of goes back to what's been discussed, these are very historic lots in a kind of peculiar area here between Spring and Madison, and so when you apply those setbacks to those high lots, it creates a hardship where you don't have much buildable area, so.
Correct.
Number 4, the variance granted is the minimum necessary, and so they're wanting to match what is really already there and not get any closer to the road, so I believe
Correct.
that's the minimum, 5 feet.
Yeah.
And what's the side setback on the zoning?
5,
5, so they're
Mhm.
gonna meet the zoning.
yes.
And then the variance granted does not correct a hardship caused by a former or current owner of the property. Yeah, so in the staff report, they spoke of that the ADU has not been constructed or purchased. And so they're not, correcting a hardship, they're requesting the variance prior to commencing with anything. So, I guess based on our discussion, we can adopt the findings of fact, including the staff analysis and the discussion we had here this evening. Is there any additional board comments on those?
No, and I don't think there needs to be any conditions. You. Or just that they make sure that they measure.
Yeah, just that they have some sort of reference to measure the 5 feet from, and if they said they had a survey, then. Just use the pens that are there to
Yeah.
measure.
There are a couple things in the staff analysis that maybe qualify as conditions, like the river rock and
Go
a
back.
couple other things, but if you're gonna adopt that analysis, that would bring it into any approval.
I mean. Yeah, we will adopt that analysis just to touch on a couple things. The proposed accessory dwelling unit will complement the architectural style, character, materials, and colors of the primary unit. And that the driveway material will remain pervious. I think those are kind of the two. It looks like, but I wouldn't, entertain an adoption of all of the staff analysis as part of the findings.
Well, and this is still, even if in the future they pave, say, the front driveway, adding this structure still doesn't get them over.
Yeah, to say, just as
Yeah,
long as they
so-
maintain.
So I wouldn't want to prevent them from further enhancements like that when they're so far under, so,
I mean, future improvements would have to stay under the limit,
yes.
so. So I guess I will entertain a motion to adopt. Or entertain a motion to approve B 1015/2024-01. With the findings of fact and the staff analysis as part of the findings of fact.
I make a motion to approve the 10-15-2024-01 as stated.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote.
Aye.
Oh, it's Bob Jones,
Yes, Robert Jones, aye.
Jenny Sisson, yes.
Kyle Lackhart, aye.
Rob Williams, aye.
Motion carries. You?
All right, thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you, Mr. Oliver.
Thank you.
We'll follow
Appreciate
up
your
with
work.
you Later.
Very good
Right.
project.
All right. Thank you.
Next item of business, V 10-15-2024-02, 200 Enterprise Drive.
All right, thank you. So our second petition before us this evening is a variance of developmental standards. It's filed by Community Health Network. This petition was filed by Jennifer Milliken and also legal counsel Tim Oakes. Tim Oakes is present with us this evening for any questions or any comments that you'd like to add to the presentation as well. But between Mr. Oakes and Jennifer Milliken, they have complied with all of the filing petition requirements. All notices went out, and likewise, we did not receive any comment, whether negative, in favor, or neutral from the public. For this petition, this particular property is zoned, it's right here, kind of etched in black here, right off of the I-69 corridor. This is zoned institutional, and the property is a little bit over 10 acres. Again, it's being right up there off of I-69, State Street there, as well as Enterprise Drive. And it is surrounded by, you'll see a lot of mixed uses here. There is heavy business here. There's heavy industry down here to the south with Tractor Supply. We also have some other heavy business to the west, and then some general business as well. And for this particular site, again, this is owned and operated by Community Health Network. This site is currently under development for a one-story medical building, which will be a 25,000 square foot facility. That facility will offer primary care and urgent care with X-ray services. Here, probably have noticed there's been significant progress made on this project. The foundation has been poured, the framing has went up. There's also been utility installation as well as stormwater management, detention ponds and whatnot installed on the property. So I can go to the next slide there. Petitioner is requesting a variance from developmental standards. They are asking basically two main variances. The first one is kind of two, it's kind of lumped in one. It pertains to wall signage, particularly to square footage, maximums for wall signage. And then also total cumulative area variance for all combined sign facings for the entire property. So specifically there, they're asking to allow on the west elevation, if you can go down this, it may be a little bit difficult here. That's okay. The west elevation here, they are seeking the allowance to be able to have a 93 square foot exterior wall sign compared to the 50 square foot maximum for the institutional district. Then on the east elevation, which is here off of Enterprise Drive, they are asking to be able to have a 96 square foot sign compared to that maximum 50 square foot maximum standard. And then the second variance is they're asking to be allowed about 275 square feet in for all of their signs on the property. That doesn't count towards like wayfinding signs and so forth, but it does for the monument sign and the exterior wall signs that they are proposing. And so that maximum for institutional zoning district is 125 square feet. One thing I did want to point out is that for a lot of our zoning districts, that total cumulative area is based upon, say, 1.5, 1.25, and then there's a max total based on the length of the front wall facing the road. Institutional is just a flat 125 maximum. So, so they did a great job. They did a great analysis. It's in your Google Drive, kind of breaking down what they're seeking and reasonings behind that. So we'll present that for you this evening. But basically, this west elevation sign would be 93 square feet. On the east wall, there would be a total of 3 signs, one at 96 square feet, and then there's 2 much smaller signs. They are well under the maximum at 27 and 26 square feet. And then they'll have a monument sign that they like to have here off of Enterprise Drive. The square footage for it on its face at 35 square feet is well under the 50 square feet face. So there's no variance there. It's just what all of those 5 signs combined kind of puts them over the top then for our standard. Stephanie, if you want to go to the next page. Also, I want to point out too, just so you kind of keep in mind, that front wall is a little bit over 200 feet in length. So here is some elevation images that they provided here. So here is the west elevation. This is what will be seen off of I-69. Just the one sign there. And then here for the east elevation, here's where those 3 signs are being proposed to be placed. They have one up here at the top here, wall signage, and then you have a smaller one down here below. This one is in their kind of the front lobby, kind of entryway door area, and then they have one here to highlight and enhance the location of the med check there on the north edge of the east wall there. And this side would be what faces the Enterprise Drive. Okay. The next slide kind of shows here and illustrates, what these type of signs will look like. So right here for the east and west elevation, so that would be the main wall signage at the top on both the east side and the west side. The only thing here, just for space sake, the west elevation sign looks a little bit different. It's all words Community Health Network all in a row, where on the east side it's bumped down Health Network down below. But these are both black vinyl on transient acrylic. And they would then be black during the day, and they are individually lit, which is a standard that is met of our UDO, would be lit up white then at nighttime. Down below is on the east elevation. It's on that north end. It's for the med check. It is on a black background, so those letters are white. And those are not lit up during the day, but yet then would be lit up white then individually during the evening time. And then the one down below is that smaller sign as well. I think that MedCheck sign might be only like 26, 27 square feet. The Community Health Network is about the same as well. This one here, it's there at that front entry lobby area, and it is not illuminated. So it's just a black lettering there for that signage. And then over here to your right is the monument sign. It meets all the specifications, all the size requirements. It's aluminum cased sign here. And what they are proposing there would be illumination of just the individual letters. The box will not be illuminated. It will stay remaining black. But then during the evening hours or the night hours, then those letters would be lit up to be visible. So that is kind of what the product is being proposed to you this evening. And again, I could pause if you have any questions for myself or Mr. Oakes, if you have anything you want to add at this time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just want to make 2 points because she's doing such a great, thorough job. If you go to the slide before this one. My first comment is when you look at these 2 elevations, at least what strikes me, and I hope strikes you as well, is how appropriate the size of the signage is in relationship to the scope and scale of the building itself. When you look at this, you don't think, oh my gosh, those signs are huge. They look appropriate. That's the first thing. Second, and this is a good thing, I think, for the town of Pendleton, but the business park right there off 69 is getting really busy. And it's getting a lot of uses in it, and having 3 children of my own who have all been rushed to med checks before. When you're going there with your child, or one time one of my daughter bleeding from the knee rather badly, where do you go? I gotta get there. And when you turn in off of State 038 right there, State Street, right into the business park, it is not, there's a lot going on, a lot. And when you turn in, even the building's there now, which makes it very easy to see. You can't really see it at first because you've got a McDonald's, then just south of the McDonald's is their truck parking lot, which has real big evergreen trees behind it. And you're looking for it because you've got a sick kid. And so the sign especially on the east elevation, hey, we're here, this is where you need to go. And we think it's appropriate and actually will be helpful. So be happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Any questions for petitioner or staff, I guess, before we continue the staff analysis? All right, staff
Okay.
analysis.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So again, the function of the planning staff is to analyze this petition against approved and relevant plans and ordinances that we have in place, as well as any existing conditions or variances placed upon the site, to present facts and analysis. And based on that analysis, we'll offer the following comments. The variance, we did not feel that it posed an endangerment on public health, safety, morals, or general welfare. The subject property, as mentioned by Mr. Oakes as well as myself, it is surrounded by heavier mixed uses there, with proposed signage is very similar to those nearby properties. The proposed signage will increase visibility for their patients, emergency services. This is a 1-story only building structure. And this structure, you recall in some other, we had a rezone, and then we also had variance here maybe 6 months ago as well. This structure, this site is very unique in that it has a lot of utility and easement, drainage easement, constraints that they got to work with, also with the need of being able to have safe and accessible parking for their patients up in the front. It created a very significant large setback for that building. And so that visibility is something that we want to stress to the board here, as well as also there is a property that has yet to develop just north of this parcel as well. And then as Mr. Oakes pointed out, the variance being sought is appropriate to the location, the size, the multi-tenant purpose, use of this building. Some of our allowances for signs allow that if there's like a multi-tenant used, or that, like, again, that front facade length of the wall, it allows a greater square footage, but unfortunately institutional doesn't. That might be something in time we may want to reconsider. But feel that that is something worth pointing out. The sign illumination standards are all met. They are internally illuminated letters, which will not shine any direct light upon any adjacent neighbors, won't cause any glare or extreme intensity for those property owners. All other standards of the UDO are expected to be met, including the placement of the signs, vision clearance issues and concerns do not exist for what has been presented. And then there will be some landscape requirements when they go to file the actual sign permit application. But those will be enforced and met as well. The only, I had one matter I did want to bring to your attention. I know that a couple of you might be aware of this, but we recently, through Plan Commission, had a corridor overlay district ordinance that was approved. That was approved, was presented on the 10th of September, and then it was approved on the 18th for final approval with the town council. This petition was filed prior to those dates. So, so that ordinance, even though this property does fall within the overlay district, which we can go over that even next month if you'd like for me to present that document. Those are going to be new standards that the boards will, your board and Plan Commission will become familiar with over time. But within that ordinance, it's then say 600 feet off of the interstate, 200 feet then off of state streets. It's main corridor areas within our town that we have enhanced some architectural standards and other building standards and requirements for landscaping, lighting, signage as well. So although it did not apply to this particular petition, I did analyze that document to see where it stood. So there are some allowances that say, should they not had requested a monument sign for a box sign, they could have had larger signage on the wall. But then the only piece that isn't met is that for a box sign or a monument sign, it asks that the signage is indirect. So it's just lighting kind of cast up. It's not internally illuminated. And that's the only thing with what they're presenting here that would fall kind of short of that document. But I think that, you know, they did a fine job in meeting everything that was applicable at the time of filing. So, and they've been working on this signage for several months now as well. So just kind of wanted to bring attention to that.
And I think some of those standards, when you're looking at just industrial, commercial, you have a lot of those buildings. You don't have a lot of hospital buildings altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think it does bring a different element to discussion with appropriate signage for health and safety, because those are emergency situations, even with your ambulance that maybe aren't familiar. They're bringing someone, picking someone up, I guess, and taking away.
Yeah.
So again, that's why we have those in place to discuss unique scenarios.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you did that extra analysis. I appreciate that.
Is there anybody online that,
Questions?
okay? All right, I guess we will go through the 5 criteria. We just spoke about the public's health, safety, and morals. I think the increased signage and visibility actually enhances the public health and safety. The use and value of the adjacent area will not be affected substantially adverse manner. So in the documents provided by the petitioner, they provided some calculations for if it was zoned like the property to the south or to the north, and this proposed signage falls right in line with what would be permitted on those adjacent properties.
Yeah. That was
And so I
correct.
think it fits the neighborhood.
Yes.
It wouldn't affect those properties. The strict application of the terms of the ordinance will result in practical difficulties. And so, you know, the signs, the property's far off the road. And so if you apply those, the strict terms of the ordinance, you would have signs that wouldn't be visible.
Correct.
And so, you know, it's not, I don't think it's practical to
No,
have a 50 square foot sign on a building that's hundreds of feet away, so.
and not for the intent and purpose for a medical building.
Yeah,
I feel like it's
emergency.
in its own classification, really.
The 4th item, the variance granted is a minimum necessary. And so the variance that's being requested is a specific square footage, or is it the signage as presented?
So it would be to allow that 93, 96 square foot for those two larger wall signs. And then for the cumulative to be allowed to have that 275.
Because
Over
the
the
petitioner's
125.
document mentioned like a 300.
310, that is correct,
Is
yes.
there something?
So yes, I'm glad that you asked that. So what it was is that we don't double count a monument sign face. So
Okay.
what they did is they calculated 35 additional feet
Both
to bump
sides.
that in. Yeah,
Gotcha,
yeah.
okay.
I had communication with Mrs. Milliken on that. Yes, and so we wanted to, bring that back down because we don't count that double.
So the request are those areas, and that is what's being presented as the minimum.
Yes.
Okay.
yes, That is correct.
And the fifth item, the variance granted does not correct a hardship caused by a former or current owner of the property. Signage isn't existing, so it's not a hardship. I think it meets all 5 criteria to be, it'll be good for the public to be able to see that signage and read it.
I agree.
Is there any board discussion on the findings of fact or the staff analysis?
Not on this one.
No, not at this time.
All right, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve V 2024-02. And so that motion would include adopting the staff analysis as part of our findings of fact that we discussed.
I make a motion then to approve V 2024-02.
Motion, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing,
Did we ask for, is anyone
Oh,
logged in?
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to make sure there's no one, okay. And then no surrounding neighbor, I didn't see any letters. of
Yeah, no
issues.
letters, no
Okay.
neutral, favorable, unfavorable.
I just want to make sure we've
feedback.
said
Yep,
that out
yep,
loud.
nope, yep, yep.
Should
Yep.
have done
Good
that.
idea.
Okay.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to the motion. And so let's do a roll call vote.
Robert Jones, aye.
Janice and I.
Kyle Icorn, aye.
Rob Williams, aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I didn't make that motion
Safe
before I put
travels.
that out there. That
We'll
was
get
on
that,
my
we'll
mind.
approve that findings
That's
facts at our next meeting and then we'll get that to you. Okay, thank you
Yeah, I
very
just
much.
think
Thank
the
you.
hospital, it's kind of one of those unique
Yeah,
situations.
well, and the size of the building.
Yeah.
All right, that's the end of the
Um,
docket. So
Before we dismiss, just real quick, that corridor overlay district, I'd be more than happy to send that document to you. It'll eventually be get on our website. But I will send you the final draft. We just got to get it in kind of final format. We'll get that out there. But those are those additional standards that if you have time, you want to take a look at. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, to me. We can go over that, or we could even go over it, the next month. There will be a design review board that will be associated with that ordinance. So that'll be a 3-member board kind of in the development area. And so they will weigh in on decisions for variances, say conditional uses, rezones, plats, site development plans and so forth. So they'll be an intricate part of our processes here. And so we will figure out kind of way that we will incorporate their review, whether they will be here present or we'll just have a report that they will work up prior to our meeting. So that will be added in as a layer to our discussions. So, yeah, that's kind of what it looked like, but I'll send it out to you all in email.
Thank you.
That's all right.
no other comments online? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Good.